Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're completely flipping the script on how we think about power. I want you to forget the traditional boardroom metrics for a second. Actually, just toss out the whole idea that power is some ugly, dirty word reserved only for cutthroat CEOs and politicians. Today, we're looking at power as everyday psychological survival. We're going to break down exactly how the real game of influence is played in your daily life.
Okay, let's dive right into this with a quote that's honestly a huge paradigm shift. As Malcolm X once noted, we always hear that absolute power corrupts, but powerlessness corrupts even more. Think about your own daily life for a second. That feeling of total helplessness, like you can't influence your boss, your spouse, or your coworkers, like they're just completely oblivious to you. That is actually what drives people crazy. It turns us into these passive-aggressive warriors. Power isn't inherently evil, Having a margin of control is just a fundamental human need.
So here's our agenda for today's explainer. 1. Redefining the power game. 2. Mastering your inner self. 3. The psychology of perception. 4. The naivete and pleasing traps. And finally 5. The climax. Let's get right to it.
Part 1. Redefining the power game. We're talking about the hidden game here.
Look, this hidden game is happening all around you, literally every single day, whether you actually see it or not. We need to completely dismantle everything society has conditioned us to believe about who actually wields influence, because there's a massive contrast between the myth of power and the reality. The myth is that power is kind of like baseball. You have a good batting average, you get put in the cleanup spot. We think it's based on objective metrics and hard work. But the reality? People rise to positions of power because they understand pure psychology. Power is a complete social game played out daily with the people sitting right in front of you. Your spouse, your colleagues, your bosses. It's all about knowing how to make people willingly want to be on your side.
Moving on to part 2, mastering your inner self. This is the inner game. Okay, so before you can even think about strategically influencing anyone else in that daily social game we just talked about, you've got to conquer the absolute toughest opponent on the board. And yeah, that opponent is your own mind. Power over yourself is self-mastery. Here's the absolutely crucial point. If you're constantly pushed around by endless emotions, by recurring negative thoughts, or by those bad habits you take classes to break but go right back to 3 months later, well, you lose all your leverage. You literally cannot control the outside world if you have zero control over your internal world. The greatest foundation of real power begins entirely within.
Which brings us to part 3, the psychology of perception, the outer game.
And this brilliantly illustrates how your internal security, or, your internal insecurity, basically broadcasts itself non-verbally before you ever speak a single word. If two people walk into a room, we instantly know who holds the power just based on these exact cues. Notice the posture. The powerful are relaxed, they're comfortable taking up space. The weak, they're tight, nervous, super self-aware. Look at focus. Powerful people have directed focus, whereas a weak individual is always darting their eyes around, touching their hair, touching their face. It's a glaring physical sign of insecurity. And eye contact, it's direct versus constantly averting the gaze. I really want you to mentally audit your own physical presence in your very next meeting using these exact markers.
So this brings us to this insanely potent rule of human psychology. Act like a king to be treated like one. If you project an absolute, unshakable belief in your own status and value, others are just going to automatically buy into that illusion. It's not magic, it's literally just how human perception works. If you inwardly feel like a king or a queen, that energy emanates, and people will simply believe that you are. Let's look at how this plays out with a crazy historical example. Christopher Columbus. The guy was literally the son of a grocer. But he carried himself with such absolute, unwavering authority that he convinced the kings of Spain he came from nobility. I mean, it was a total con game. But because he acted the part and fully believed his own bluff, he secured the massive funding required to explore America. He basically faked it till he made it, purely through commanding presence.
But hey, quick warning here. There's a massive caveat to all this. Appearance and optics, they eventually have to produce actual results. Optics, bluffs, and playing the psychological game are absolutely crucial to getting your foot in the door, just like Columbus did. But the make-believe will 100% catch up to you if you can't ultimately deliver. If it's all just hype, you're not going to survive long-term. Use psychology to win the position, sure, but you must use real competence to keep it.
All right, part 4, the naivete and pleasing traps.
In every game, you've got antagonists, right? But in the game of power, the most dangerous threats aren't outside enemies. Actually, scratch that. They are entirely internal. They're our own blinding naivete and our desperate need to be liked by everyone. Let's completely redefine the pleasing type for a second. We love to disguise people-pleasing as just being nice or kind, but structurally,
It's a strategy stemming from deep, deep insecurity. It's a secret indicator of internal weakness. When you try so hard to please everyone, it just shows you don't really know who you are, and you lack self-control. It's a glaring signal of vulnerability that the rest of the world can literally smell on you.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the harsh reality of the law of the jungle. We all kind of hold on to this naive fairy tale idea that if we just keep our heads down and do good work, the universe will magically hand us a gold star and all the credit we deserve. But look at reality. Comedians use huge teams of writers for their jokes. Politicians and newscasters, they use speechwriters and researchers. And in places like Hollywood or the corporate world, there are vultures constantly circling, just waiting to snatch the credit for your hard work and eat it up for themselves. Don't be a naive yokel here. You have to understand the dynamic of the world as it actually operates.
And finally, part 5, the climax. Time to embrace strategy.
This right here is the ultimate mindset shift. You need to not just survive this daily social game, but to actually thrive and win it. It's time to take the blinders off. I've got a direct question for you. Are you pretending you don't want power? We love to tell ourselves, oh, I'm just being myself, or I'm only interested in truth and justice. I don't care about power. But guys, that is deeply naive. If you're fighting for a cause, if you want some kind of justice in the world, you absolutely have to be able to meet the enemy on their exact terms of power.
Because look, the reality is everything you do, everything you breathe in, is a desire for power. It's a fundamental desire for expansion, for influence over your environment. Whether you're just trying to stop an annoying habit of a coworker, or you're fighting for a massive global movement, you are strategically seeking power over others. We have to strip away the negative connotations, look in the mirror, and just admit it. Only then can you actually play the game effectively.
Which brings us to arguably one of the most powerful tactical rules you can literally start using today to build a formidable reputation. Law number 4, always say less than necessary. Why? Because when we get nervous, we ramble. We think over-explaining makes us look smart and knowledgeable. But in reality, talking too much just makes you look completely weak and insecure. Strategic silence, on the other hand, that builds intimidation. It proves to everyone in the room that you are in control.
Say less. Master yourself. That is the ultimate takeaway from this explainer. The rules of life are pretty nebulous, but they're mastered through these subtle psychological shifts. Remember, true power isn't loud. It shows in how you sit, how you hold someone's gaze, and how you stay dead calm when everyone else is shaking. If you stay naive, you are absolutely going to get played by the vultures. But if you master yourself and understand the psychology behind it all, you start shaping the game. So going into tomorrow, are you going to let the game play you, or are you finally going to start playing the game?